All right, let's talk about something that might sound a little dry, but is honestly one of the most critical skills you can have for any serious work. Mastering the standard operating procedure. We call it an SOP. And trust me, this isn't about boring paperwork. It's the absolute bedrock for making sure your work is reliable, repeatable, and most importantly, trusted.
But before we get into the how, we really need to understand the why. And to do that, we have to ask a pretty tough, maybe even uncomfortable question. When you read a scientific paper, how sure are you that someone else could follow the methods and get the exact same result?
Well, the answer is kind of shocking, actually. Some studies have found that fewer than a third of biomedical papers can be successfully reproduced. Just let that sink in for a moment. Less than 1 in 3. That's a huge problem.
Yeah, this isn't just some small statistical blip. It's a genuine, fundamental challenge to the credibility of science. In fact, it's such a big deal that the scientific community has a name for it: the reproducibility crisis.
And look, this isn't just some abstract academic debate. This crisis has real-world consequences. We're talking billions of dollars in wasted research funding, countless hours of work down the drain, and a serious hit to the public's trust in science. The stakes here are incredibly high.
So the big question is, what can we do about it? Well, the good news is there's a really powerful, proven solution. It's the standard operating procedure. And I know what you might be thinking, more bureaucracy, but it's actually the opposite. This is all about creating more clarity.
So what exactly is an SOP? Put simply, it's a clear, step-by-step set of instructions that make sure a process is done the exact same way every single time. And I absolutely love this analogy here. An SOP is the source code for your research. If you don't share the code, nobody else can run your program. It's that simple.
And check this out. This workflow diagram is basically our map for the rest of this explainer. It shows the whole journey. We're going to keep coming back to this as we walk through everything from the first draft all the way to getting it published and keeping it updated.
Okay, let's dive into the first big phase, actually getting that initial draft onto paper. This is where we'll cover the first 5 rules for writing a clear and effective SOP right from the get-go.
So if you look at our map, we're right here in this draft SOP stage. This is where the core of the document really takes shape. And believe me, getting these first 5 rules right is absolutely going to make everything else so much easier down the line.
Rules 1 and 2 are the absolute fundamentals. Rule 1 is all about knowing when you should even write an SOP in the first place. You don't need one for everything. The key is to focus on tasks that are super critical and have to be repeated the same way every time. Then there's Rule 2, define the purpose. Be really explicit about what the SOP covers, and just as important, what it doesn't cover. That'll save you a ton of confusion later.
And this brings us to a really key insight. You might think, oh, writing simple instructions, how hard can that be? But this quote from Richie Norton just nails it. Simplicity is complex. Your job as the writer is to do all the hard thinking up front, so the person following the steps doesn't have to.
Okay, on to Rule 3, which is all about structure. Every solid SOP has 3 main parts, and it's pretty straightforward. You need a cover page for all the key info, then the procedure itself, the actual step-by-step guide, and finally a section for all your references and definitions. Now let's zoom in on that cover page, because this is so much more than just administrative fluff. Every single field you see here, the title, the unique ID, who wrote it, who approved it, all of this builds a chain of accountability. It's what makes your process traceable and official. It's the backbone of a good quality system.
Next up, Rule 4, and this one is a biggie: clarity. You have to be crystal clear. I love this quote from George Orwell. Good writing is like a window pane. That's exactly it. You want the person reading it to look right through your words and see the task, without getting tripped up by jargon or confusing sentences.
And to round out this drafting phase, we've got Rule 5, specify your tools. This means everything. List every piece of software, every standard you're using, any papers you reference. The golden rule here is simple. Never, ever make your user guess.
All right, you've got a draft. Awesome. But, and this is a big but, you are not done yet. Not even close. Now we move on to the next crucial phase: testing, reviewing, and getting that all-important final sign-off.
Let's go back to our roadmap. We finished the draft, and now we're moving into this critical loop of testing, reviewing, and approving. This is where the magic happens, really. It's how your document goes from being just a personal draft to a validated, official team asset.
Rules 6 and 8 are all about making this review process formal.
Rule 6 is so important. You have to get reviewers with real expertise. Don't just ask your buddy down the hall. Find people who actually know the procedure inside and out. Then, after you've made all the edits, Rule 8 is that final official stamp of approval.
But sandwiched right in between those two is my absolute favorite. Rule 7, the colleague test. Before any of the official reviewers see it, just hand your draft to a colleague, ask them to try and do the task, and then, this is the important part, you stay quiet, no helping. This example here is perfect. You wrote, use the standard blue cap tubes, thinking it's obvious, but your colleague is just staring at a whole rack of tubes, totally lost. I'm telling you, the colleague test is the single best way to find and fix these hidden problems.
So, your SOP is approved, it's signed, fantastic. But you can't just file it away and forget about it. A good SOP is a living document, and that brings us to our final phase, the ongoing life cycle of your SOP. Let's look at our workflow one last time. See this? After approval, the SOP gets distributed and published. But notice that little arrow that loops back around? That's key. It represents the ongoing cycle of review and updates that keeps the document alive, relevant, and useful.
And this brings us to our final two rules. Rule 9 is simple. You have to review and update your SOPs on a regular basis. Science moves fast, right? New tools come out, better techniques are developed, your SOPs need to keep up. And finally, Rule 10 is a call to action. Publish it. Don't just hide it on a local server. Make it accessible to the entire community through repositories like Zenodo. That's how we all get better.
So when you put it all together, it's clear that writing a great SOP is so much more than just a bureaucratic task. It's a scientific discipline in itself. It's our most direct and powerful response to the reproducibility crisis, and a fundamental part of practicing good, transparent, and reliable science.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. We all work incredibly hard to do brilliant, innovative research, but the ultimate question we have to ask ourselves is this: is it reproducible? A well-written SOP is the first and most critical step to making sure the answer is always, always yes.